Uh-oh, the compressor's out again. What's going on? Yeah, the compressor's missing. Hardest part about getting these things out, depends where you've positioned it. I reckon these stupid little Allen key bolts are such a pain, and they're not in the best position here. I can get to them, but they're just so tight, and I think what the reason is, I'll just show you one of them. See that bit there? I don't think it's the thread as much as that bit there that goes into the rubber. It gets tight in the rubber and a bit of resistance. So when I put it back together, I put a bit of rubber grease on them and they went in really well, and I thought, oh yeah, that'll be easy to get off next time. Bzzz. No, it was still a pain. It was a little bit easier. This time I'm going to put a bit of moly coat on them when I put it back on. Hopefully I don't have to take it off again, and this is why. There is a big problem with some of these ARB compressors. I say a big problem because, in my opinion, and it seems pretty obvious, it's the design fault, and at some point in time they did change it. I'll go through the information that I've gathered so far and let you know about some of my customer service experiences. But in the end, as it turned out, 54 bucks, I got myself one of these piston kits, piston barrel service kit apparently. It doesn't need service, it's in really good condition. It's just all because of the bad design where there was no clip to hold that con rod on. And there's an upgrade, I believe, so I'm gonna follow through the instructions they supply a little bit and go through. If you saw our previous video where I just pulled it apart and made it up as I went, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to try and do a better job this time, make sure there's no leaks, everything goes back together, and a bit of Loctite on a few things to make sure it doesn't come undone, that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do now is just open up this end of the compressor, starting off by taking the air filter off, but I can't hold the camera while I'm going to do it. It's all pretty boring, so step by step, air filter off. So I've just unscrewed that, it's just sitting there, and just thought we'd have a quick look in here so you can see what things look like, and it should be offset. And that's why I wasn't sure if this is actually the problem, because when I opened it up last time, you see that, oh no, there's a problem, but of course it goes around, right? So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove these two, what I'm going to call head bolts, and this assembly off the top. So I'll go ahead and do that. More detail in the previous video. Just search on our YouTube channel, ARB compressor cooked it, whatever happened. So I've just zipped out these two bolts that came out of there, but because of the manifold, I also need to remove, well, I'll probably just take out that top one. Okay, so removing this bolt, just be careful, there's a rubber seal under that washer there that sits on the outside of that manifold cover. Will help seal that up, right? So just be aware, it all just goes straight through. It's just an empty tank. It's got the solenoid on top for the locker. There's the bolt, and here's the other end of the, well, it's the end of the manifold. It's also the head, if you like. We need to make sure that O-ring stays in good condition and stays there as well. And here you can see the piston, and of course, what are we going to call this? That's the bloody bore, mate. You can see there's nothing wrong. There's some wear lines in it, but there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing that's going to cause any issues whatsoever, in my opinion. But we've got some other issues further down, so let's get to that. With the barrel out of the way, or the bore, or the bloody, what do you call it? You know, the sleeve, or whatever you want to call it. You're also going to need to take this cover off here, which has got two short bolts in it. So I've got one out. I'll zip the other one out. This time that we've got a bit more experience and we know what we're doing, we're not going to take any of these long bolts out that pull the actual motor assembly apart. We don't need to do that. We removed and checked all that last time, and it was just like a new one. This is a 2014 compressor, so it's nearly 10 years old. There should be nothing wrong with it. But as I said, there's a design fault, and that fault is, see the piston here? Well, this is my opinion that it's a design fault, okay? But I think ARB have confirmed that it's a design fault by changing the design a few years later, when they probably, I'm going to assume they probably had some issues with this, right? So there's nothing to hold that on, right? And I believe that's what happened with mine, but I could be wrong. But you can see I put a lot more grease on there, and I'm going to do that with a new one as well. Now, there's a good chance that this compressor could have now run forever with no further problems, because it's just luck of the draw, right? With this going up and down, around and around, a million times a minute, or whatever it is, right? Whether this was going to come off or not and get jammed up like that, and is that what happened last time? I couldn't find any other problems with the compressor, so I assume so. Funnily enough, I find a kit that's got a couple of little clips in there. You can see that little clip in the bag. So this little piece, you can see it's got an edge on it to put a clip on, so we've got to replace that. So to get that out, what are they calling that? So that screw in there, they're calling that the cap screw, and this part here, the axle, right? So without pulling the end of the motor off, the only way to get this out technically, other than jamming it there, which, you know, by rights, you'd think maybe it wouldn't come off, the bore will hold it straight, but, you know, maybe it's a bit of wear over time. So let's just go like this. Let's just go. I'm not going to take exact measurements, but let's just have a bit of a look. And when we put the new one on, we'll do a comparison. Anyway, we've got to get a little heat torch in there and put some heat on that and undo that and get it out. That should be pretty straightforward, and that axle should come with it, and we'll replace the axle and piston. So a pretty straightforward job. I'll get some heat onto that, and I'll get my quality Allen key and get it ready for action. Now, if you're wondering how to stop that from turning, as the instruction says, the best way is you can just put something like a screwdriver, or I'll just give an example. See this bolt, I'm just, you know, trying to show you that once you put something in there, it'll stop the piston going up and down so that you can turn that, you know what I mean? And, you know, because of the surfaces here, you're on the casing up here. Hopefully, don't use a rough thread. I'm just giving an example, all right? You know, a flat piece of metal like a screwdriver, something flat would be ideal so it doesn't put all the pressure on here in case it was going to damage it. But it's the seal area down here that matters. That's clean. You want to make sure this O-ring's nice and clean so it doesn't leak afterwards. Anyway, so we'll lock that in position. We'll get this bolt out. I'll let you know how we go with that in a few minutes. So I've just used a little trade flame to heat it up a bit to hopefully help things. With the Allen key and even the long Allen key, I was putting a lot of pressure on it. It didn't feel good. So I've got the brushless gun, the little brushless gun with the quality brands, the old quality brands. And I found a little 4mm. I think it's a 4mm that you need there. And cracked it loose with that. It was coming slowly. I was starting to think I ran. I thought, oh, it's all over. I'm going to need a new compressor soon. Put it back together, and then, yeah, no, it was coming out. So let's get it the rest of the way up by hand, and it should all come out together. Actually, I'll see if I can get in there with this little one. All right, I think it's pretty loose now. And just show you that all that should come out together in one. It's all the way. It's too hard to do. I've got to put it down, right? So you're getting that to the screw and the what do they call it? The cap screw and the axle, the middle piece, and then the piston will lift out the top. Just goes to show how old this rubber matting on the bench is. It's certainly long overdue for replacement. This is just an area where I like a bit of a softer area, but that is thrashed, man. That is so old. Anyway, so you can see the grease on that. What do they call it? They called it the axle. And you can see a lot of Loctite on this bolt, which is why it was really difficult to get off. They recommend some Loctite, what was it, 272, whatever anyway, but we'll have a look at that later. And I just want to show you now what will happen is the piston assembly will just lift straight out, okay? So these two items are part of the problem right here. Let's have a look at those for a minute. I'll just show you in the end here because you're going to see what that looks like. Where they've put the Loctite. Right, sort of basically really gluing it on, because from instructions I think it says 12 Newton meters if I remember correctly. Unusually I did have a quick look at the instructions. I don't normally do that. Anyway, so what we're swapping over is this piece here. I'll clean this one up, I'll get the others out of the bag, and we'll do a bit of a comparison. Let's take a quick look at the kit contents. Okay, so this is a bit of a universal kit, obviously. The one that upgrades from the original poor design problem that doesn't have the clip, which we'll explain a little bit further in detail for those that it's not obvious. And general repair kit. I mean, you know, if you did use it enough, you could put some wear on it. And I'll show you some wear on some of the wearing parts already. It's not the problem. It's not a problem. You could have got a lot more out of it, I think, but we're getting a new piston seal, and we'll talk about the assembly of that. So there's a bit of maintenance going on here for, what was it, $54 and a fair bit of time. You can see the black on this, what did they call that again? Whatever you want to call it, you know, the, what was it? There was the cap screw and the bloody, I want to call it the cam. They call it the axle, Anthony. Axle. Okay, like Axel Foley, easy to remember, right? So there's the old bolt. They say discard all of this, the old piston, the old bolt, the old bore. Discard, let me just get the old one of those, right? Discard all that. That's all rubbish, apparently. You can see the wear. You can see like the piston's flattened on the side there. Not so much wear. It's been sitting there for 10 years, so it's more flattened off more than anything. This one you can see it's brand new. So there's nothing wrong with this one, keep it as a spare. There's nothing wrong with this one, keep it as a spare. If for some reason you happen to be able to wear that out before other components, happy days. But as you can see, like I said, I've re-greased this one, that's the old one, and that's why it looks like it's got grease on it. But you can see how black it was there, which shows there was a lack of lubrication and some heat going on. I don't think it's a big issue, but I'm gonna do a bit of muck around. It's gonna be hard to show you on camera. But the biggest issue is, as you can see, there's 2 clips in this kit. I'm going to assume they're both the same. I'll take a closer look. Doesn't tell you the detail of what's in the kit. What I can see is 2 different size bolts, M5, M6. It talks about that. And I'm going to assume that along with the M5 bolt, the upgrade to go to this axle with a clip so the conrod doesn't come off with a clip, I've got to use the M5 because that's the compressor. But along with not thinking that they needed a clip to hold that on, and I'm not guessing all this, I could be wrong about all this, but by the end of the video, hopefully we all know more, or those of us that watched it. But I'm going to guess that so this is a 2014 compressor, which I've just given a bit of a clean up and whatever, it's ready for action. I think it's about 2017, by then they realised there was an issue and they changed to this design. But I believe, and I'm just summarising here, I did spend a lot of time on the phone with ARB head office and Max, who does work on the compressors there, and took a long time, a lot of phone calls inbound, only ever 1 phone call outbound. No warranty or customer service exercise or anything. It's just bad luck that it was a bad design. You've just got to pay to fix it rather than, so, you know, a bit disappointing there. I expected differently. I wasn't sure if they were aware of it. So I think the other thing they did, because one's bigger than the other, obviously, the M5 and the M6, I think the other thing they did, that actually looks the same, doesn't it? But it's not. Let's see if we can fit the M6 bolt in the M5 hole. No, you can't see it, just to show you, right? Right, so you've got to use I've got to use this one and bolt to replace my one. But if you've got an M6, you're probably not going to have issues, but I'm going to go and suspect there's a possibility that these M5 bolts can break off as well, because under a lot of heat and load, I believe it's something that could happen. And we happen to have an M6 here, so I'm going to guess that from sometime around 2017 onwards, when they added the clip, they also upgraded to an M6, which I think would be much better. So yeah, a couple little upgrades they've done. I think this should have been a customer service exercise, maybe at least supply the kit, which would be pretty cheap to them, and a video like this, a really detailed video, maybe shorter, sweeter, but you know, the detail is in the length of the video. So as you can see, what I'm going to do now, they're talking about Loctite 272. I'm going to see what I've got, and I'm going to find out about 272. I might get some 272. That way I'll follow the directions. We don't want it coming loose, but the concern is one day it could break. So I'm also going to keep this old bolt, assuming it's the same length. And I'm going to assume, like I said, these are the same. I'll let you know later in the video if I work out anything different, because one day you might be in the same boat. They look the same to me, but they could be different. And bada bing, we'll get it back together. And looks like we've got a spare for an M6. If somebody breaks their M6 bolt or something, I just don't think it's going to happen, but we'll have a few spare parts in stock for compressors. All right, I'll get on with it. I'll let you know what else I learned. So we're having a play around here, and I learned a couple more things. So yes, the clips obviously fit on. Hang on, I didn't even put that one on properly. So bloody quality workmanship. Quality clip maybe. Anyway, I'll fix that one up in a minute. I don't really want to go on. Let me have a look at it. So the clip went on properly, and it is a really good fitting clip. I'll give you some what I worked out so far. So M6, beautiful. It's definitely going to be much stronger. That's your preferred. So later models of things, always better, right? But that's a big change. And to me, upgrading the size like that, that's not a customer service thing. But not having a clip to hold it in place, like, you know, this one, for example. So this one's got a clip, you can see. It just stops. See that? Beautiful. Beautiful. Right, this one just comes straight out, right? It's just a bit of grease on there, but doing this one-handed thing, right? So there's nothing to stop it from just going like that. Now, what I've noticed is, that's why they're both sitting here like this, same. Now, I'm not wasting time doing precise measurements. I could do that, but I'm not doing that. What I can tell you is, though, when I compare holding this one and this one comparing, This one's got some wear in it. The bearing was definitely going to have some wear on it, and it's allowing more up and down movement, and therefore that's most likely what has happened. So pretty well close to confirming that's what's happened. The absolute confirmation is getting it all back together. I've put the clip on there because my understanding is I'll be dropping the piston in, right, and then putting this in from the outside as an assembly and then doing that up. So of course the clip may as well have been on there from factory. That way there's less chance of those clips getting lost. So when they put the kits together, like I've done with this one, just put the clip on there and then people can't lose it. They don't have to think twice. Anyway, time to keep doing a bit of more of my own R&TU. I haven't said that for a few years, have I? R&TU. Put it in the comments. Who knows what R&TU is? R&TU, research and R&TY, really, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't even figure that out back then. You probably put in the comments, but I didn't read. Anyway, moving on, I was out and about, so I went to a couple of places to see if I could get some 272, and it's hard to get. Not at Supercheap, not at Ripco, not at Bunnings, nowhere like that. But this at Ripco was $25, and the shelf price in Bunnings $15. So just be careful what you get from Ripco, and always check Bunnings for stuff as well. With this piston here, they talk about being careful not to damage it. I believe it's really robust, this piston and the seal and everything. I'm not too worried about it, but we're going to put some moly coat on the seal. They don't talk about that. And put it in, obviously, you can see the easy way to put it in, right? You pull this end down through first. Doesn't matter which way up or down that goes, I believe. And I'm going to put some moly coat on here. And as I pointed out earlier, remember I said there was going to be pressure, either cranking it open or closed, that bolt here. And there, see the two marks there? That's what I'm talking about. So just spread the load a bit, or something a bit wide and flat. I just use the screwdriver in the end, but careful what you use because it could break that. I don't know. I mean, it is a cast housing. Castings can break. Anyway, 272 is higher temperature, but one of the Loctite experts always told me, if you want medium, use 243, and if you want high strength, use 263. So I think it's something like 180 degrees. I don't think it'll be getting to 180 degrees in there, surely. It's almost as you cook pizzas in there, right? I mean, it'll be getting hot, but not that hot, I don't think. We're going to find out anyway. I'm using 263 because that's what I've got. That's what was available. What you want to do to install the bore, the sleeve, the bloody whatever you want to call it, onto the piston is pass this end through first and then just push the sleeve against anything firm and solid like the bench. Just push that down and it'll pop in, and then you can just straighten it out. And I just put it about halfway, so that's ready to go back into the motor. I'll get it back in there, can't hold the camera at the same time, and pop the screw and the Loctite and all that, and it's all in the instructions, but it's pretty straightforward. I've got the Loctite ready. First step is I'm going to put this into here, and I've really got to put the camera down and use two hands to put that into there. All right, so just sit the axle and the bolt in the hole, and bada bing, tighten it up. Remember what it said, I've got to check the Newton meters. What does it say? Using a torque wrench tighten the cap screw at 12 Newton meters, or the M5 cap screw 10 Newton meters. Right, so it's all the way in. This is what they don't tell you. They want you to put this in there first to pull it through that way, which, like I said, I'm not too worried about it. But now you can't put the screwdriver there to lock it to torque it up, can you? So what I'm going to do is hurry up and get the manifold back on the top, because I want to work quickly so the Loctite doesn't dry before I get the bolt in the position I want. And then I'm going to put a screwdriver in the end here or something to be able to stop it from turning. And I've got the torque wrench here ready to go and give it its 10 Newton meters for the 5, 12 Newton meters if it's the 6 is what it says. Okay, so back to this stage, this is all back on. So it's just a matter of 2 bolts for the head. I just nip them up till they feel nice. I haven't got torque specs being provided for that. Like I said, there's a rubber O-ring under there. I believe that'd not want to leak, because this is your little manifold tank. If that leaks at either of the O-rings, which is why I clean them up, put some moly coat on them to make sure they're Mickey Mouse. Hopefully I got that right. And that little rubber seal there, I didn't put anything on it, but something like moly coat just helps things slip into place. But I'll just give it a go how it is. If we have a leak, I'm going to test it with soapy water afterwards, but not yet because this is still open. So reverse order before, we just got to pop this back on, make sure all that's clean. I might even put a little bit of grease or something on there, just to generally seal it up, because it's just, there's nothing there. It's just metal on metal. It's, you know, not really going to be the best. So I don't want to glue it on or RTV. I'm just going to put a bit of grease help any water that might sneak its way through, because we don't want anything like that in there, do we? In case you wanted to have a look in here, it all looks really good. Yeah, I did put a bit of extra grease on the bearing because that's how I roll. And you can see the clip there. There's a clip that retains so that con rod can't come off the axle. Axle, yes, we finally got there in the end. Did everyone else notice? Yes, that is a rubber seal there. It's a little bit worse for wear, but I'm going to put some Molykote on it and it'll help that plate butt up against it nice and clean and make sure it's sealed. So that's back on. So now it's just a matter of screwing the air filter back on. And don't cross thread that, it's just a plastic thread that's, you know. So I'm going to put the camera down and try and concentrate a bit more on getting that straight, because obviously I'm not that good at it at the moment, being a bit camera in the way. That on, that is completely reassembled, ready to go back on the vehicle. I'll put a little bit of that Loctite on this fitting here as well, because that's obviously what they used. And we know since removing it, we have got a slow leak. I wouldn't have thought it's going to leak through the thread there, but maybe that's something that happens. So there you go, a bit of 263 on that. I'll let it all dry before we test it. Anyway, so there it is, back in position. What did I do different this time? Put a bit of Molykote on those rubbers. Hopefully that helps. Plugged it in. I should probably clean up that plug a bit more as well, because I've seen other people's compressors melting those wiring and plugs. So just make sure you keep an eye on that. So they do have issues. Just beware. Plug in the locker. That was the right one, wasn't it? I don't think it was the one that was down there. And I reinserted this. There is an O-ring that looks average, but like I said, there was some red stuff on there. So as you can see, you know what I did? I put the, what is it? What number is it? 643. I forget the numbers now. 643 is, no, 243 and 263, right? I put the 263 on that as well. Because there was certainly a leak of some sort. I'm not going to test it yet. It's all solidly mounted. We'll let that Loctite on the inside dry before we give it a hard time. Might even just double check over those, but no need to. And of course, if you ever want to change the angle of this, you can just loosen off that bolt that goes all the way through the middle. Once you loosen that off a bit, that allows this to slide, and you can also twist that tank up and down. But like I said, mine's nice and easy because it's got the Molykote in there, helps things seal, helps things move, and you know, if you want to make adjustments and that, but I just sort of put it back around about, you know, with that out there. And bada bing, bada boom, hit the like button. Hope you learnt something. I put in a lot of effort to give you all the info you need. I think it's a 4mm Allen key to get these out. I think it's a 4mm Allen key. I think it's the same size for the one on the inside, but I can't remember already. I've already forgotten. 10 Newton meters on the M5. It's 12 Newton meters on the M6. The way I held it in the end was I pulled this back off again and I lifted up that cylinder or sleeve, whatever you want to call it, a little bit without sliding it all the way off, just enough to get the screwdriver in, enough to click it to 10 Newton meters. It was, wasn't it? Thereabouts anyway. 10, maybe a fraction over 10, 11, 12. I don't think it'd matter. You don't want to break the M5, but you don't want it to come loose either, which is why the Loctite's really important. I think it's tight enough that it wouldn't come loose, but you never know. That's a video. I don't know what else I can include. I'll let you know how it goes. Stay tuned on 4x4 Diesel and 4x4 Adventures, because that's where we'll be using the compressor and you'll get to hear it going brrr, or just brrr, or whatever. Catch you in the next video. See ya.